From AI-generated pop songs and virtual artists topping charts, to machine learning tools reshaping how music is composed, produced, and even marketed, we're in the middle of a sonic revolution. But is this the dawn of limitless creative potential or the slow fade-out of human artistry?
Get ready for the 3324 podcast, where lifelong friends Dean Legiro and Eric Kuber share their love of all things music and movies. Dean has directed short films and is a music trivia buff. And Eric, trained in audio engineering, brings his extensive knowledge of music and film to the conversation as they discuss, debate, and celebrate their favorite albums, films, and much more.
Welcome, friends, to the 3324 podcast, home of the noisy intro, because someone was moving stuff around.
A football fell off my kid's bed.
Clacking stuff around.
Sorry about that.
It's like a library. Shh.
Yeah, you gotta be.
Shh. Gotta be quiet.
Gotta be quiet.
Nah, I don't care. I've flubbed so many that, who am I to make any type of demand, Eric, right? On the
No.
sanctity or the quietness of our intros, right?
Yeah, you've loosened up quite a bit over the years.
Loosened up so much I've had to do intros 3 and 4 times.
Yeah, in the beginning it was, you ran a very, very tight ship, but now it's like, we're just on a...
Now it's just, hey, loosey-goosey. If it's your first time here, welcome to the Loosey Goosey Show. And we're going to hopefully have a great time. And if you are new, there's a whole bunch of new episodes available for you. Old episodes, actually, available for you. New episodes come out on Thursdays. So go check them all out. There's a whole bunch of great stuff there. Music and movies. 4 years worth. So there's a lot there to pick and choose from. So it'll keep you busy for a while. I dare say this is not a bingeable podcast. I dare say that you're better off stretching it out and enjoying it in small batches. And this way it'll last you a long time.
Savor it.
Exactly. Savor the flavor. Don't eat it like a Hershey bar. Like a Hershey bar, you eat the whole thing like that, and then it's done.
And then it's done, and then you don't want to touch it for.
No, I'd go in for a second one.
Yeah, I was going to say me too.
but either way, we appreciate you joining us, new listeners and existing listeners. You guys know the deal here. So, episode so nice. We're doing it twice.
Yeah.
Not too many. We don't have too many of them, but I do like to mention when we do that, just so people kind of get a little behind the scenes how the sausage is made with podcasting. Sometimes for one reason or another, and usually I think almost every time we've had to redo an episode is because of audio issues, and we want to make sure that the audio is acceptable for everybody, and that's kind of like our bar.
Mm-hmm.
Entry. Content could be questionable sometimes. Humor could be questionable at sometimes. But audio we don't mess with. So we recorded this one a couple of weeks ago, and actually things have changed since we've done it. So it's nice that we're going to get to reconvene and talk about this subject. And it's important enough to warrant re-tackling the episode. And another little behind the scenes thing is when we record episodes, we don't do them right away, right? We will wait a few weeks to kind of forget about what we talked about. So it's not like we're parroting, let's redo this right again. It's like, so it's fresh. It's like, no, I'd prefer to actually forget what we talked about, and let it be organic. How do you feel about that? Do you like when we just kind of let it sit for a while? Or?
I do, because it gives you the opportunity to, to think about what you did say, whether or not it was worth anything, or there's always times when you talk and you either don't say all you want to say, or you say the wrong things, and you mean to say the right thing, but it comes out wrong, or there's something just to be added, that you gives you the opportunity. So I've been kind of thinking about that too. So I'm glad we're doing this. So. Yeah,
and we've brought back the original guest with us. Mr. Christopher Clark is here.
Good to be here again, talking about this subject.
Yeah, again. I almost didn't recognize him because he's not wearing a backwards baseball cap.
Yeah, I didn't put it on.
It's almost like when you see someone that always wears glasses and then you see them without glasses, and it's like,
right. Oh wow, pretty jarring.
Not this person.
I don't look like a 10-year-old wearing a backwards hat.
That's all right. Hey, you know what? Youthfulness, you're going to want that in a couple of years. You're
Yes.
like, what? I want to look like a 10.
I want it now.
Good.
Yeah. So we're talking about AI. Most specifically, we're talking about music, AI in the music industry, and it, this conversation may bleed out to some other things, but it is very important because of one specific occurrence recently in the world of music, and really that's what sparked kind of the conversation and wanting to do this. And it's a group called Velvet Sundown. And as of the recording of this episode, this group has a song called Dust on the Wind.
Yeah.
Not to be confused with a more popular song, Dust in the Wind by Kansas, which has amassed over 2.3 million streams on Spotify. And this group, Velvet Sundown, has kind of taken the music industry by storm. It's like, wow, it's hard for new artists to get out there, especially with artists that make videos and they embrace social media and all this crazy stuff. And the thing with Velvet Sundown, Eric, is that we didn't really see, we saw pictures of them, but everyone started to think that there was something odd about photos. I'm a little bit off.
You had actually sent me the link, I think, to the Spotify the songs and stuff, but I did see the imagery, and I could kind of tell right away that it looked
something was amiss,
pretty doctored, pretty like it's too glossy. In they use this a lot in a lot of movie posters now, and even like clips from movies where they kind of superimpose that sheen over it so that they could use a clip. I guess this is a thing now. So AI technology is enabling people to just be able to was it not have to pay, I guess, or pay for the content or whatever, in this case, I guess it was an experiment, right? I mean, these guys were just
well, initially everybody was wondering about Velvet Sundown and who are these people, and they, the powers that be put out the names of the members of the group, but the imagery had telltale signs of AI.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Notably, like when you see a guitar that has 5 strings or a pickup not in the right spot, or there are names that are garbled looking.
These little distortions.
Little
appendages like feet. I notice like sometimes like their toes are like twisted or even hands or don't exist, or your fingers are just
they morph into
weird. There's
telltale signs that unfortunately people still fall for, but the imagery that they sent out, Chris, was pretty quickly put out there that this is probably an AI group.
Yeah, I mean there were a lot of people like I guess like internet sleuthing about whether or not it's real or not real, and even just down to the way the music was mixed. We talked about that Rick Beato video where he actually tries to strip down the tracks into separate tracks, and just even the way the tracks read, they're supposed to play in a certain way when they're separated, and they were presenting the telltale signs of it being an AI recording. I mean, even just the music itself. I mean, it's the music, the song titles are like, Dust on the Wind, like, or like, they it's almost like they're trying to harken back to the 70s.
Yeah.
And then it has a very generic, like 70s, like rock and roll kind of sound to it. So like, doesn't sound like it's like anything really like, I don't know. It not anything that's like real groundbreaking or original. I know that's not a sign of AI, but if, it kind of adds to the conversation or just as like another pice of evidence, I guess.
Which is kind of odd, I feel, because the choice of the genre in itself was this sort of like California, very sort of Eagle-esque, Poco.
Yep.
These groups of the
Laurel Canyon type of vibe.
Laurel Canyon, Firefall, and these like wonders.
California
who did have like really high production standards in those days. I just wonder whether or not was this a comment on that? Was this saying, can we fool people by, doing this with full on artificial intelligence? to make it sound like the way things sounded back in the day, and because it was such lush production. So I don't know, but they never really made a comment, did they? They never really commented on why they did this.
Not why. No, you're right. Not why, but eventually the pressure built, and I don't even know if we still know who it is, but they, their bio now says, that they're basically AI generated, that it's not a real band. And since this Dust on the Wind by Velvet Sundown was from their album Dust and Silence, and even since then they just put out a new album last month, Paper Sun Rebellion.
Oh my god!
So I think it's almost like they're just putting these things into a title generator, like Paper Sun Rebellion. Floating on Echoes was their first album, and then Dust and Silence was the one that had Dust on the Wind.
So weird.
Odd. Very, very odd.
But to Eric's point, I think part of why they chose this particular genre of music is because I think music of today's generation, like of my kids, or like, dance music and that style of music today, people are used to this stuff being in there, like programmed tracks and programmed loops and sound effects and all that stuff. It's been done and it's been accepted. Like, so I wonder if it's almost like a social experiment of, if the music is good enough, will those who listen to, like, of like my parents' generation, or people who listen to the music like the three of us do, like, are we going to be accepting of it being from AI if the music is right? Like, does it matter if it's AI? It's almost like the person doing this is asking that question in some respects.
I'm sure there's a segment of the population that will have this show up in their algorithm, and they probably won't know any different. And I think part of my thing was, and in listening to it, was did my opinion of it change because I knew that there wasn't real people making the music? Like I listened to it and it's like, okay, when I listened to it, it was before it was admitted that it was AI, but I listened to them like, it certainly sounds very non-specific.
Yeah.
The vocalist kind of sounds non-specific, and the music kind of was there, but there weren't little things, little flourishes, little human errors, or things that would recognize it. So did that automatically start to color my opinion of it? Because if I know it's AI, well, I can be harsher on it because it's not a real person, and I'm not really hurting anybody's feelings if I say it sucks. Like who am I hurting if I really drag it? Do I not? Is the fact that it's AI affecting it? Does it affect how you feel about it, Eric and Chris? Is there a bias? Is there a bias that's going into it, saying, well, you know what, I don't really have to care as much? Or
I think in this case, yes, because the choice of music, I mean, they should, like you were saying, they should have done something to the nuances of a performance, the sort of, sometimes when you hear an acoustic guitar play, you hear the squeak, for example, of somebody like going up and down the frets, and they keep that kind of thing on the recording.
The squeak of the drum pedal,
exactly. Little idiosyncrasies that that make a song a song. Sometimes a note isn't exactly perfect, or the pitch, or whatever. They should have had that in mind, and I think they did a remarkable job for what it is. Why they're doing it, it's beyond me, but I feel like there are probably some more talented people out there that know how to manipulate the AI into enhancing something that they're already doing, or have the talent or a foundation, and they're just using it to enhance, to create a much bigger sound or a production. I don't know. I mean, do these guys even know how to play? Do they know? Are they a real? I mean,
that's a good question.
Where was the foundation? Where was the basis for what they were doing, or is it all just programmed? And
what are they telling AI to do specifically, or are they just saying make me songs that sound like the Eagles in 1977, or are they like, this is what I want, and this is what I want the drum sound to be, and this is what I want the guitar sound to be, or like how AI is it?
Because it does come across as extremely bland and just very generic, like Dean was saying. So I don't think that there is that basis there of saying, certain artists, they had a particular vocal style, or I don't know if these guys had that in mind.
Yeah.
In the programming of it, you know what I mean? So so
you can with AI, I fooled around with a couple of them, song creation programs, and you can plug in your own lyrics. You can put in lyrics that you wrote, and then say, make this in the style of 1960s girl groups, or whatever, and it'll spit stuff out. So Eric, you said, well, do these people even know how to play music? Well, that's an interesting question, because can this be a tool for someone who does? I play guitar in the loosest term, in the loosest definition of that term. But does that mean that I don't have a musical ear or a musical aptitude to create, not necessarily to play music, but to create that music, to through a series of prompts, create something artistic? Which, Chris, what do you have on that?
Well, I was going to say is like, so do you mean like where you come up with the sequence of notes and then tell?
No, not even the sequence. I just, I write some I've got some lyrics, and I have ideas in my head of how I want things to sound, but I'm not a musician, so I really don't know how to do that. But I can write prompts of, an electric piano, that sounds like the one that's on Freebird or whatever, whatever.
Right. Gotcha.
And through using technology with the prompts to create music that I hear in my head, but that I couldn't do because I'm not musically inclined in that way. I could be musically inclined, and I know what sounds good. I know what I want to hear. I know what it should be, but I can't play it.
So does that define you as the songwriter, or is AI just writing a song based on what you're telling it, or like, is it?
Question. I mean, are you the creator? Is now the term creator? Right.
I think it's what you put into it. I mean, the more you like, if you are so musically inclined in your head to have in your mind, you can have a clear vision of what something should sound like and what appeals to you. So in effect, you are telling it. So I think you are sort of being the labeled as the creator.
Yeah.
But that in itself could be just fun to do, just something that is, maybe will inspire you, maybe to learn how to play music more, or you know what I'm saying? Like the tool is there to do this kind of thing, in a creative sense, sure. But to benefit from it or to cash in on it is whole nother matter,
right.
I feel.
Right.
Because you have established artists out there who are struggling.
Yeah, they're like busting their ass to write a song, to get it produced, to arrange it, book studio time.
And they have that natural talent and that aptitude.
And this cat came up with a gimmick, and he's getting 1 million listeners a month on Spotify.
Right. It's like, is it? I guess the question is it ethical in a sense? Like, is there a morality to this? Is there, or is this just they're doing it for fun to see what happens kind of thing? It's popular, so they're still doing it. So
let me read you. Let me read you the actual bio on Velvet Sundown from Spotify. Yeah. The bio that's there. The Velvet Sundown is a synthetic music project guided by human creative direction and composed, voiced, and visualized with the support of artificial intelligence. This isn't a trick, it's a mirror. An ongoing artistic provocation designed to challenge the boundaries of authorship, identity, and the future of music itself in the age of AI. So they're basically saying that I think the important sentence here that we want to pull out is Music project guided by human creative direction and composed, voiced, and visualized with the support of artificial intelligence. So they're saying the composition, the voicing, and the visualization, meaning that how the songs come out with the support of artificial intelligence.
So they've written the music and then pumped it into a machine and said, "I spit it back out with these musical elements."
I don't even think it's that much because it's saying guided by human creative direction. I think of creative direction as can you get this to sound more country? Can you get this to sound more like Neil Young? Not necessarily, writing music or, I think it's more guided by human creation does not say authored by, or it doesn't say they wrote music.
Right. Well, what is that part where they said about composed? That composed.
So Velvet Sundown is a synthetic music project guided by human creative creation and composed, voiced, and visualized with the support of artificial intelligence.
So it's saying they're composing it with so AI is giving them music and then they're changing it to what they want it to be after AI.
Composed, voiced, and visualized with the support of artificial intelligence. So I'm thinking that they say, yeah, we've got some songs, or I've got a song title, Dust on the Wind. And maybe not even, again,
they're choosing their words carefully there.
Yeah, guided by
they really are.
Right. Guided by human creative direction says to me that they're not writing the songs, that they're molding what they want it to be. So they probably did some prompts, got some music out, and said, okay, now what do we need to change on this? What is missing? What's wonky? And then they re-prompt it.
Yeah.
And by you can get a song writing one sentence, but you can get a really better song by writing 10 to 12 sentences.
Yeah.
Right.
The thing is that, because we're sitting here talking about it, we're questioning it. We're calling them out on the floor here in essence, where we're saying, prove it. Let's see what do your words mean? What do you, if only they would make a YouTube video and how and explaining how they did it maybe it would sell it better. Maybe it would maybe
make people feel better about listening to it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If you have any kind of musical talent, show us, just pick up an acoustic guitar and just play a song that you wrote, even if it's not that great. Prove that there is a foundation there, that there is a basis that, okay, we want to sound good. I want to know what could sound like if I could create and write a song. I don't think there's really nothing wrong with that experiment. But like I said before, just sort of doing it and then it's kind of odd to me that they're not really saying much about it. They're just letting the downloads come in, and they seem to be like, hey, we're cool,
Well, the second sentence kind of addresses that, because it says an ongoing artistic provocation.
Yeah.
Right. They're saying we want to provoke something here, designed to challenge the boundaries of authorship, right? So, who actually owns this? If we're putting prompts in and AI is writing it, well, then who owns the rights to it? So, challenge the boundaries of authorship, identity, right? Who are these people? These people sang songs. There are performances, but who are they? They're AI, and the future of music itself in the age of AI. So all that. I think is rolled up. They are admitting it, and they're saying this. They're kind of saying this is a thought experiment.
Okay,
we're going to make all this music, and basically, they're kicking it to us. Yeah, what are your thoughts on authorship? I put a prompt in, and I have lyrics now. I didn't write them, but I wrote the prompt for them. I didn't. These are not real people, but I asked. I put in prompts for how I want their voice to sound.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I kind of created them. Right. So do I, and I think that's what it's again, an ongoing artistic provocation. So they're trying to probably, I guess, I didn't listen to the new album, so I don't know if it goes off into a different direction. Are they going, like a lot of artists do? They all of a sudden they try like a prog thing, or go country, or they go, like is this going to track like a?
Is it enough to just prompt something? Is it enough to say that you call yourself a creator? Is that being creative enough? Whereas people would experiment by creating a sound on an instrument, and sometimes it's just absolute trash or just the worst kind of sound. But how is that different? Physical, it's more of a physical thing than you telling a computer. You know what I'm saying? Like, is there a difference there? Is there?
Right? I get what you're saying. Like you're using different talents because what do DJs do? Or what do artists that use all sequencing and loops do, right? They're taking loops that have been created, a beat, and looping it over and over and slowing it down and speeding it up and then putting some claps on it. And
which, there's some talented people out there that can do that. And
but even that, like you're manipulating the program, you're manipulating the loop, you're manipulating the beat. You're not telling the computer to do it. You're using the computer to do it yourself.
Aren't you doing that exact same thing by putting another prompt saying, I need this to be 138 beats per minute? Isn't that the same thing as turning a dial to 138 beats per minute on a computer? Aren't you essentially doing the same thing if you're, right? Right? What's the difference between me telling the computer to use this loop or to use that versus me dragging it on a screen,
but I think it's important to editing program. I totally get what you're saying. So there, people should be. I think the problem is like instead of people making a firm stance on like, no, AI is no good whatsoever. People need to learn more about it, be more experimental with it, educate yourself with it, and maybe that this is the intent. Maybe perhaps these guys, this is what how are we accepting this? Obviously, people are listening. They're interested. Whether or not, the downloads show. It is a social experiment. But I think through education, I wish there were people who were very proficient at it and very, sort of coming out and saying, let's show you the benefits of this thing, how this works and stuff like that. There should be more of that. I know there's a lot of artists that are embracing it, but cautiously optimistic about it, but they're embracing it. If used in a, if you abuse it, just like anything, but anything else over the years, we've had technology that has, people didn't know how to use it or whatever. And it's just, is this any different? How is this any different? Is it more, it just seems to have that negative context to it. It's very detrimental. But, on the other hand, there are, in other walks of life and besides music, it's being employed in the film industry as well and making videos. And of course, in business and, banking and all this kind of stuff, people are actually losing jobs as a result because this technology is doing the work of maybe 2 or 3 people. And now they have to go and find something else. And they have to, perhaps they have to maybe, again, take these opportunities to learn more about it, to be on top of it and to be ahead of it. So I think that's where I think that's where the attitude should be, in my humble opinion. I don't think it's necessarily an evil thing. It's just it exists. So let's work with it.
It needs to be harnessed. Chris, what do you got?
Yeah, I was going to say, like, even as an educator, I'm as my students have discovered it, it's becoming more of a rampant thing that it just, a kid says, okay, I need Clark's paper on this. And I got to, at some point it's easy to tell. And sometimes it's not so easy and you got to figure it out. But like, it's also the idea of now my struggle is, how do I show my students how it can be used and when they can use it and how they should use it. And I think the same would apply to music as well, in terms of the fact that, you have, there's a lot of uses for it. Like, I don't know if you guys know who Jason Becker is. He's
no.
He's a guitar. He played with David Lee Roth for a little while in the late 80s and early 90s, and he came down with ALS. So now the only part of his body he can move is his eyes. He's still alive more than 30 years after getting this disease. But he writes music. So like for him, and a lot of times when he'll write the music, he has to have musicians come in and play for him. Like the idea that he would be able to like do it all on his own again because of AI, like write the music and then, put it through however he does it. And then, have the, there's things that it can be used for. And I think Eric makes a really good point that instead of being afraid of it, try to embrace it a little bit and
harness it. Okay.
And harness it for what it needs.
Here's a question. What's the difference between Velvet Sundown and the Monkees or the Archies? Right? The Monkees weren't a real group. They were right. They were put in a studio. They didn't, initially they didn't play their own instruments, right? They didn't write any of the songs. They were just there to be on a TV show, to play characters, and then to make music as an adjunct to the TV show. And then the same thing with the Archies, was a cartoon, and they had the one hit Sugar Sugar, which was a big hit. It was credited to the Archies, but there was no Archies.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is there a difference between that and AI? Why can't we just plug that stuff into AI and have them make us an Archies or make us a monkey?
You probably could now,
right? I'm saying like back then that was basically the equivalent of it, right? They didn't really exist per se.
But you had songwriters and musicians that were being paid and employed to put that music together. So that, as you know, yes, it's box, but there is that human element where I think, every generation going back to 1967 has dug on not the Archies, on the Monkees music, or has heard the song Sugar Sugar, whereas are we going to be talking about Velvet Sundown in 55 years the way we talk about the Monkees or the Archies? And
these were human beings. They put their personalities into it. And they really sold it. The Gorillaz would be another great example. It's a virtual band, fictional. There's not a real band. It's one person and an artist creating, sort of comic book type characters and creating that. But I hear they put on a great show.
Yeah, they do.
It's artificial. It's all like just characters acting like they're performing the songs, but it's the personalities are as real to fans as any group.
But again, you have that human element. You have the cat from Blur, and the guy who does all the animation and the artwork.
Right.
So if you were an artist today, Eric and Chris, if you were an artist and you had 2 million streams on Spotify, you would probably be out on the road. You wouldn't be here right now. You'd probably be touring. You'd probably be playing somewhere. I'm not saying you'd be playing MSG, Madison Square Garden, but you'd be playing venues somewhere with 2 million streams. How do we get to see Velvet Sundown? Who goes out on tour? And does that limit the experience? Does that now just make this something that I'm just going to listen to? And then does that then devalue it? Because it's like, well, I really dig this and I understand it's AI, but I'm never really going to be able to experience like hearing this out there, like for real.
Right. Or there are a lot of artists that don't tour.
Do they put together a Velvet Sundown group and send them out? Would that change things if Velvet Sundown remained an AI group, but there was a band that was authorized by them and played live? Would that change things? Would that make things interesting?
It wouldn't change the music. That's not very.
No, it wouldn't change it. Maybe it would. You know what? Maybe it would, because live shows are different.
Fair enough.
Right? Yeah. Would that pique your interest if Eric, if coming to your town was Velvet Sundown, the live experience, Velvet Sundown, the live experience? Would that pique your interest, an AI thing? And they said, well, this is going to be a real band, real people playing, and these are the, we audition people that are as close as we're going to get to whoever the fake voices are.
I don't think that would appeal to me at all. No, I just, because that, like I said, if they were trying to hide it more, and if the music was there enough to fool you, that could be a thing. I mean, and then to have somebody come out and create, like, why stop at just audio? Why not just create an entire stage show using AI? Like I just said, like creating a hologram of
like ABBA.
Yeah, exactly. And just making that, but if the music was good enough and exciting, but knowing that this is what it is, and then having somebody live try to perform it, I don't know.
Okay, so I got from both of you that really the deal breaker is the music just isn't good enough to
no, I don't think
so. To make you want to. You're not hearing anything in the music that's like, I wish these people were real,
or like I got to go see these cats play live.
There is a certain, how do I put it? I mean, I'm from what I gathered, just by listening to this, there is a certain warmth that comes across. Even with music, even if music is this bland, like if there's like you're listening to like an acoustic band that are just not the greatest band, okay, there's still something that is that's coming across in the performance that makes you. It tells your brain that you're just kind of like, that this is genuine. Sometimes all it takes is just a simple tremor in the voice or something, something to just give it away, something to make it human. And just this is not that at all. This is just so synthetic and just so,
it really is.
Just that fine line. And just, there's nothing to it that I could see,
I mean,
just give us some, be more, like, hey, put some beats in there. If you're going to do, if you're going to do it, try to fool us, try to, make that the experiment. But this is just, no, I don't see it. I don't hear it. I don't. So therefore I'm not interested. And the fact that it is popular is baffling to me, because it's just, I don't get it. So.
I mean, are people listening to it because, I mean, it was all over. I mean, I haven't seen it quite as much in the few weeks since we did take one of this, but like, I mean, it's still out there. So is this a curiosity factor drawing people in, or are people just like that not into music anymore, that they'll just put anything on that's just like, background noise and they're not really listening? Like, I don't see how this gets like, I think when I looked at it this evening, it was 900,000 listeners a month.
Yeah.
I don't see how this gets that. Whereas like you have other artists that I listen to and I'm like, I don't know how more people are listening to this. Like, it's just,
you could be onto something there when you say that. Like, it's like, is this, are people really paying attention? Or is it just, pleasant music to just drive to or even shop to? This is the kind of thing that you could play in, I think, in a supermarket
or something, in an office. Yeah, it's like office music,
right? Or could it be that this is, because it's kind of retro sounding, that younger people are kind of gravitating towards it because this is okay. It's kind of new technology. It's music it's not Hotel California, because I've heard that before. So it's new old music, right? In a way.
Yeah.
And it's not an organic human being who's trying to be retro, right? Because then you'd be like, oh, this person's trying to be like that. They're trying to be like from the 70s. But but we've got this thing that doesn't exist, and they're sounding like they're making it to sound like the 70s. In as much as,
what's the demographic
in as much as when when Robert Downey Jr. touches his chest and the nanotech Iron Man suit comes on, we know that that's not a real suit. We know it's not real, right? But we're like, okay, like we're going along for that ride, right? We're watching the movie and we're taking what we're seeing at face value within the scope of the film. So within the scope of I want to listen to some music. I'm not going to say they're not discerning, but that's really what it leads to, is meaning do people just not really care as deeply about it, and they're like, yeah, you know what, this is cool. It's a gimmick, or it's kind of nifty, or I heard there's this AI group, and you know what? Let me,
yeah, it's like I'm saying. I mean, you got that young demographic who are just so, first of all, very smart, very intelligent kids out there that are just, that are gamers, that they're talking about stuff I've never heard of, algorithms and this and that, and they have a knack to know how to use this stuff so well that, we're still trying to figure out certain things. The technology keeps, how do these kids like, just like, and maybe that's the gimmick. Maybe that's the draw is, oh yeah, we could create something with this technology. And it's like, as if you were playing a video game or what, or doing something like that. So that could be perhaps the target audience. But it's a good point. It's a very good point. Yeah.
I just did a quick search on Google while you were talking. It said why are people listening to Velvet Sundown? And then a Reddit came up where somebody said maybe it's just bots. Like the artist is like getting bots to put Velvet Sundown on Spotify. like it's.
I don't know if that. I'm not sure about that because
no, I don't think so either.
it would defeat the purpose of the experiment, right?
Very true.
If their stated purpose was to challenge the boundaries of authorship, identity, and the future of music, then they would want to see how much organic traction they could get if this is going to be played on the radio and what, how far can we take this? What's the reality? So in the end, does this mean, if AI had gotten so good that they're like, well, we're putting out an album from 1973 that's going to sound just like Genesis in their heyday. And you're not really going to know. You will not know the difference. Would that be something you were interested in, Eric? Or would you immediately be like, no, you know what? It's going to have all the bells and whistles from the 1973 Genesis era. We understand the music. We understand, that whole thing. And we're going to replicate. So it's going to be like you're going to get new music from Genesis from that era. So is it, do we want music? Do we just want music, or do we care about the people that are making the music? So would you care that it wasn't, if it was that close, would you care that it wasn't?
In this case, no, I wouldn't, because it is about the people that made it. But
so you wouldn't be, so it would be like
fair. I mean, there are bands that I that I'm not really vested in their personal lives, or perhaps they're just assholes, or people that you just don't care, but they make good music. I would love to hear like certain, So it's an interesting question. I think I'd probably be more inclined to be more interested in the film side of things, like because now you could, if you've seen any of these like trailers that they're making, like Star Wars, for example, but it was as if it were made in the 50s.
Yeah,
that's really cool. Yeah,
stuff is like really cool looking. I mean, you could tell it's fake, but it's like, but I have to say, it's quite interesting. And it's just it's like, man, the imagination is boggling here. This is the kind of stuff that people I think always wanted to do but couldn't. So, yeah, I mean, in a visual sense, I think it's probably more appealing in my case. But audio, I mean, I don't know. I mean,
well, you're saying in music, you kind of care about the person, but
right. In this particular case, it's like say Genesis. I mean, to me, I always liked them better live anyway. Because they were such a great live band, and their music is dramatic, more dramatic.
Take the Police, or take anybody. Take any example of something that from your favorite era of a group, and we're going to be able to recreate that. And let's take it one step further. Let's say they get the blessing of the band. Let's say it says, you know what, you could take all of my vocal recordings and put them through AI and make new Sting, make an album from 1979 and a half in between, Zenyatta Mandata and whatever, and do what you want with it. I'll let you use my vocals and put it in.
Don't know.
All right.
Yeah, it's an interesting question, but I'm not sure. I'm not really sure, because if it would be, it wouldn't be them. You know what I mean? Like it's just not.
You're already predisposed to not like it because you know where it's coming from.
Yeah, I think my brain would be telling me this is not really them.
That's how I feel too.
Because it's been like I think we pointed in the first time we did this. I made a couple of, there have been times where people have pieced things together, old recordings with newer technology and a newer artist, and putting them together and that kind of thing. We're essentially resurrecting these people. Is that an ethical thing? That's another whole question in itself. So in a way, you're already saying, even if the person was still alive and giving them their blessing, it would be like they're saying, "Hey, I'm dead. I'm whatever." So I don't know. I don't know, Chris.
I mean, for me, like I think about like my brother-in-law and I, like our biggest, one of my favorite bands and his favorite band is Dream Theater. For 15 years, the drummer from Dream Theater was out of the band. And I would always say to my brother-in-law, this record's pretty good. There's some good stuff on here. And he refused. He's like, it's not the same. I'm not going to listen to it. So like, if you have people like that don't even want to listen to a band if they change musicians, even if it's the musician's choice to leave the band. So are you really going to sell somebody on, this is going to sound just like the Police, or this is going to sound just like Genesis or any other band, or is it going to sound just like ELO? If you don't have the people actually doing it, how are you going to sell them when you very often can't sell somebody when one of their favorite members has left a group?
I think I would give it a listen.
I'm not saying I wouldn't listen to it, but I feel like I'd go in biased, and I don't think I would ever. It's never going to be The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway or Selling England by the Pound to me, because like I'm going to be predisposed no matter what, just because I know what those artists, who they were and what they did to get to that sound, and then to just have it be recreated by somebody hitting enter on a computer. I don't know that I can,
especially trying to recreate it and supposedly make it better. Is another story.
It's never. I don't think it's ever going to reach the heights. Although it's coming pretty close. You can go on YouTube and you can search. They have Jim Morrison's. People have scraped all of his vocals and put it through AI, and they've got him singing like songs from the 70s that were out when he was not alive, like singer-songwriter stuff, and Freddie Mercury's voice is all over YouTube with AI of different to varying degrees of success. Some are not as good, some are pretty good, of them singing songs that they had never sung. But if the estate of a deceased person is authorizing it, isn't that what's the next best thing? What's the difference between that and finding a trove of unreleased Freddie Mercury vocals and then having some people put music behind it? That I'm asking, what's the difference? What is the difference? Is there a difference?
You still have, in that case, you have Freddie Mercury's artistry and the melody lines that he wrote, and it's not something that's coming from someplace else using his voice. That's how I would see that.
Okay. So you're like hard and fast that nobody can.
I mean, there are things I'd be curious about, like when you bring up the Doors, the one thing that you said when it entered my mind is, I don't know how many people know this, but the Doors actually recorded 2 records without Jim Morrison.
Yeah, and they actually on YouTube there are some songs from other voices that they put his vocals on.
I'd be curious to hear that, like that kind of stuff. But as far as like somebody writing music and then using somebody else's voice, I don't know. Like, and I know that there are artists that feel very similar to that too. Like the one that I think of is the Dead Boys, their current singer, when he went to go sign his new contract, there was something in there that would have allowed them to use his voice and then put the original singer, Stiv Bader's voice over it. And he like freaked out so bad he like quit the band. Like he felt like he was losing his voice or having his voice taken away from him. So is that the other thing? Does this take away from living artists who are, maybe have rejoined these bands or a part of these bands? And like, is it fair to them to now have to like live in the shadow of those people because you can bring them back to life with AI?
Sure. Does it, and to extend that thought, does it then stifle the music industry? Because if let's say they got it to that point, let's say they got it to the point where Sinatra and the Beatles, in their era, could be replicated, there'd be no need for new music because we can just get new music from Zeppelin. We can get new music from the Stones. We can get new music from the Who. We can get new music from, the Temptations. We can get new music from Marvin Gaye. We can get new music from the Bay City Rollers. No, literally, like what, does this, could this create some stagnation? Are there up and coming musicians right now that are saying,
why bother?
what's the fucking point? Because I'm going to bust my ass for 2,000 streams, and maybe I should just try writing prompts.
Yeah.
And in the same token, like for some of those artists, like one of the things that I've been doing lately is just going down the wormhole of different things every month that I haven't listened to or haven't listened to in a really long time. There's like a treasure trove of stuff that these artists produced while they were alive. Like, why have them? Why take their voice and create something that they weren't a part of when there's just like this well of stuff that's so easily accessible now that people should be checking that stuff out before we're using their voices to create something else. Like that's the other thing for me. Like, why?
We're on we're on the precipice of a new frontier, right? I mean, we're not going back. Let's put it that way. And
no, definitely not.
And we talk about AI, and I just mentioned the Beatles, right? For the single Now and Then, AI was used. They used AI to separate John Lennon's vocals because it was on a cassette tape, locked in with a piano.
But you're not faking John. I mean, but that was what John Lennon sang,
because you're using AI to remove something and then to replicate what's left, right? It's got to remove, it's got to take out, it's being told, take this stuff out and then, replicate it without that stuff.
But it is still something John Lennon wrote.
Yeah, it is. But it's happening, right? And
I know.
And also, right, Eric, during the Get Back documentary, Peter Jackson used AI to better isolate the banter in the studio, right? Because there's so much stuff.
Separate the voices so you can hear what they're saying. Yeah, sure. I mean, when it's used in that context to gain a better experience in terms of what, as Chris pointed out, is what was said, sung, played, performed, whatever. If you're going to get something that you've never heard before, sure, I'll check it out. I'm all for like remasters and things like that. I'm a big fan of somebody taking something and manipulating it in such a way where you're bringing vocals to the forefront or drums or something. If you could change it and make it sound that much better, especially if somebody was kind of stifled in the back, they're not really heard, and now they are. In that case, if we could use the technology to kind of do it, to do that, that's something that I don't mind. I think it's to me would be.
Let me turn your argument on you then. Sorry to cut you off, but I think that's important because you guys are talking about like artist integrity and what the intent was. Well, that wasn't the intent. Wasn't the intent for the tambourine to be heard during Don't Fear the Reaper, or the cowbell to be heard during Don't Fear the Reaper, right? And if we're going to be using AI to now, bring things out that weren't there or were there but were buried for a reason. I mean, isn't remix?
It all depends on the artist too. If the artist feels differently about some, let's say for example, George Harrison, when he re-released All Things Must Pass, he was. Why did I use Phil Spector? Why is this? Why is this? Yeah, this is terrible. And he tried to, I made such a poor decision. People get older; their perceptions change.
Sure.
So if it's an artist that is actively involved in the process, sure. But if you're talking about people who have been long gone, and then somebody takes it upon themselves to do it, as an experiment or whatever. I mean, I like I said, I'm not opposed to listening to it. I don't know if I could necessarily, and it depends on who it is and what it is. And will I 100% embrace it? Probably, maybe not, but it would be an interesting listening experience. But to kind of full on try to recreate something that we know and love and have been mentally and almost physically attached to, in a sense, in a way, for so many years, and to have somebody try to replicate that just out of the, it's not about, it wouldn't be the same. it just, I don't know. I can't explain it. I don't have the words to kind of, to really explain why. It just, it's not just a casual listening experience.
Yeah.
If it were something that it was like say jazz or something that we're not really that vested in, or a certain particular artist that we never really listened to, and they did that kind of thing, to try to replicate a certain sound or maybe even a certain genre of music. Like I've always been a big fan of like soul and Philly soul and having that sound. If somebody were to replicate that and try to bring that back, and hey, I wouldn't be opposed to listening to that. It'd be cool, just on a casual listening sense, or just to get, but if it's somebody that you're, so there's the human element. There's the human factor of attaching yourself to, to an artist in that way. Chris, sorry.
I was gonna say they're artists that you've lived and died by. Like they're artists that like there are memories attached to them. I remember where I was, the first time I heard, I remember the first song I sang to my kid, and or I remember where I was when I saw this artist or who I listened to this artist with. And so like, it's not even so much, when you have that personal connection to the music, to then know that a computer tried to recreate something just as good, it feels like you're cheating that artist that's been such an important part of your life in some respects. And I know that sounds silly, but like Eric said, that's kind of the human element. And then going back to that whole piece about, bringing stuff out and bringing music or things that the artist might not have necessarily intended. You think about some of those records and when they were recorded, in every case, was it something that was supposed to be buried in the mix, or was it something that was supposed to be brought out? Especially those old Beatles records, like when Giles Martin went and remixed them, like to hear the drums and the bass and the guitar, like having that separation where you can hear everything. I can't imagine that McCartney and Ringo, and if they were alive, Harrison and Lennon, I can't imagine them having a problem with those records bringing more of that stuff out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's another question as we close out. Let's say younger listeners, right? They're very much living in a digital age. They've been brought up probably in front of an iPad.
Yeah.
And just,
yes,
that this type of thing is second nature. So what about the kid? What about the 10 or 12-year-old kid that is discovering the Velvet Sundown? And because you're saying, Chris is saying, oh, these albums mean so much to me and I have such a connection to them. Is it possible? Is it not possible for a young person today who is just discovering music to listen to Velvet Sundown and that become one of their favorite albums?
Absolutely.
It's definitely possible.
Are we being grumpy old men by saying, well, it's not real people doing it, whereas for a kid that's listening to this for the first time, they may be like, oh my God, this is amazing.
I mean, in that particular instance, sure. Yeah. I mean, I if that's what I tell my kids all the time, I don't, never let anybody tell you, what you should like and what you shouldn't. And, never, so yeah, if I had a 10-year-old that was the turn, I'd say, I love this. I would, okay. I'd respect, I don't have to like it. I don't have to agree with it. But you're talking about years and years of experience of,
But are we being, to my point though, you're saying is I don't have to like it. So are we?
I don't think I'm being grumpy. I mean, I'm trying, I just, cause I know what it is. And it, that's something that I just have an opinion, it's, I don't like,
so is that opinion
need to embrace everything? It's like, there are certain things that I just, I think
is that opinion blocking us? Is that opinion holding us back?
I mean, I'd like to think if there was something really redeeming or something that really grabbed me when I didn't listen to it. probably didn't go down the wormhole quite as deep as you did, Dean, but I did listen to some of the cuts and there was nothing where I'm like, oh my God, I need more of this.
I'm agree. I'm not, I'm playing devil's advocate. I want to listen to their new album to see if things have changed, but we have strong opinions about it, right? We've got defined, definite strong opinions, but so are those opinions also roadblocks?
And saying we don't have an open mind about certain things. I mean,
will it be a roadblock in the future? Let's say this stuff gets really good, but because we're so dogmatic and we're like, I know what this is. Velvet Sunday. Tried this with Velvet Sundown. So are we setting ourselves up? It's just a question. Are we setting ourselves up to not be open? Because this is going to, this is like the first pass. And yeah, admittedly, it passes for music. just like the first CG, first CG use in movies to now, what will this look like in, I was going to say 5 years. I dare say 5 months, a year, or 2 years.
I mean, I look at it like this. There are artists who, for varying reasons, I really do not like as a human being. And then I'll put on the record and go, God, I wish this person wasn't such an asshole. So like, if I can do that, I feel like if there was an AI record good enough that
you worry about their personalities,
right, exactly. Right. So if I could get past like somebody who's an awful human to listen to their artistry, why couldn't I listen to AI artistry if it was up to muster? That's, having said that, I think the one piece of grumpy old man that I do have in me is I lament for the time where music meant more than it does now. Like, I don't think music to my kids' generation means as much now as it did to me when I was 14 or 16. Like, my two kids are now. Like, I'm not saying my kids don't like music. They genuinely do, but it's not like, for me, it was like my whole world. Like, at 16, music meant more to me than anything, outside of my family. So
because there was less. It's a pretty easy answer. Kids today have access to anything and everything at their fingertips. So it's easy for them to like some music, like some of this, like some game.
Right, exactly. Yep.
This, like, they can, be a jack of all trades and master of none. Whereas,
and dare I say, doing it all in the confines of their house, in their
right,
room,
exactly.
Couch. Whereas we were out there experiencing other
and how
things,
to seek it out.
Seeking it out, going to concerts, hearing music being played outside is a whole different experience, and just the camaraderie of people just hanging out and that kind of thing.
Yeah, having a more kids have a
more intimate connection, and I dare say, I mean, I like Chris was saying, you put it perfectly. It's that lament of, I don't like to think of myself like, as a grumpy, closed-minded individual. I'd like to, sure, like Chris was saying, if this were something interesting and I didn't care like who the artist was, if something, just, if it was good music, if it was whatever, and so reached me in a certain way, then sure. There's plenty of stuff that I listened to over the years. I'm a big fan of score work, soundtracks, soundscapes, things like that, that are created with artificial instrument, like synthesizers and keyboards. And so there's plenty of that I have I've been emotionally touched by just as much as somebody, performing live, so perhaps I'm kidding myself by saying I wouldn't, but it's I'm not closing the door on it. Good. I just but like I was saying before, it's just a matter of really, okay, we're talking about it. So the conversation's out there.
Sure.
Let's all, maybe we should look into it more. Let's investigate this. Let's, check it out.
We will reconvene in a year or two.
Yeah.
And see.
It'd be interesting to have that conversation looking back on this one now.
I think so. I think it's an important thing because, like I said, it's not, the floodgates have been opened. So, and there's no putting the toothpaste back in the tube, right? Yeah. Can't get the genie back in the bottle. So it becomes, how do we, what expectations do we have? How do we manage our expectations? Do we embrace it? Do we just shut it out of our lives and say, well, I don't want any part of it? There's a lot of different ways to approach it. So I think this is a good place to leave it off. I think we've had a lot of interesting thought experiments, and that's really what this is. Yeah. And that's what Velvet Sundown is. In the end, it's a thought experiment. It's like, I think they accomplished their mission because, they have challenged the boundaries of authorship, identity, and the future of AI, and it's an artistic provocation, and they've provoked us
into having a
this conversation and provoked us into digging a little deeper and scratching below the surface about how we feel, not just listening to it. And yeah, we listened to it. And we could have done an episode about the album. We probably could have done an episode about it, but I don't think that's what they want. I think they want a deeper conversation. I think that's, what.
Kudos, because I
think they
do the assignment. So yeah.
I think they accomplished their mission is getting to talk about it, not just listen, because that's the easy part. Well, what does this mean? So yeah, we're on the precipice of a new frontier. So let us know how you feel about it. You can hit us up on Instagram, Facebook, and or YouTube, or all three. Leave the same comment everywhere. If you really want to test our mettle and make sure that we're checking all of our socials, but you can do that. Or you could even within the your podcast application or your app, there should be a little fan mail thing where you can send us a little note. We can't respond to those, but you can certainly let us know how you feel, and we can acknowledge it on one of our shows, which we have in the past. So I think that's going to do it for this episode of the 3324 podcast, still recorded by live people.
For now.
I can, I can put, it would be really fun to do, because there are, voice cloning. I could easily send all you guys like a link to clone your voice, and we could literally type out an episode and have our voices do it, and
just so weird,
just for the goof of it, and see.
That would be very odd indeed. Yeah,
like we would have to plan it out so it sounded like we were speaking and overlapping or doing whatever we do.
Yeah,
but it would be very interesting. Very interesting experiment for us to see. But that's not going to happen anytime soon. I'll tell you that much. Because I like chatting with real people in real time and seeing real faces. So.
Amen.
Yep.
Christopher Clark, thank you so much for joining us on this episode. Sans cap, which tells me that you're real.
Yes, I am. I'm here. I took the cap off.
A human being.
Yes, I am. Thank you for having me.
Of course. As always, thank you for coming back for a second helping. And
it was good the first time, just as good the second time.
Yeah, yeah, it was a lot of fun. I think actually the episode is very different from the other episode, which is good.
Meatloaf is always better the second day.
Yep, and Italian.
There you go.
Italian is better the second day. Chicken farm, reheated in a frying pan, forget it.
There you go.
I should just order it and say, wrap it up.
There you go.
This will be for tomorrow. Just give me some water for now. So that's going to do it for this episode. New episodes come out every Thursday, so please give us a follow, won't you? It's very easy. Just hit follow or notify me, whatever it says in your app. This way you get notified when new episodes drop. But they do come out every Thursday, so we'll give you a little advance hint. Eric is going to be on his comfy couch, and I'm going to be in my gaming chair until the next time we meet. So for Chris, for Eric, this is Dean, and we will catch you on the non-AI generated flip side.
You've been listening to the 3324 podcast with Dean Legiro and Eric Kuber. You can find us on your favorite podcast provider, so please like, subscribe, and rate to become a part of the 3324 family. Your feedback is important, so make sure to follow us on Instagram and Facebook at 3324 podcast and on Twitter at 3324p to join the conversation.